niggas, that's what I like. Broke boys, that ain't my type. I see girls, ride it all night. 8-inch, that's your pipe. Yo, man. A rich nigga, 8-figure, that's my type. That's my type, nigga, that's my type. 8-inch biggle, that's the pipe. That bitch, I'ma ride a dick.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Science Professor Obene, and welcome to the channel. This is Science Professor Obene. All right. So if you haven't subscribed, you need to subscribe. Okay. All right. So let's get to business. Today we are looking at living environment ecology. We are looking at how energy flows through the ecosystem. We are looking at the ecosystem, biotic, abiotic factors, and how organisms such as producers, consumers, how they obtain their energy. All right, so when we talk about ecology, ecology is a branch of biology that deals with the relations of organisms to one another and also their physical environment. So before we understand ecosystem or ecology, the first thing we need to know is biotic and abiotic factors, the difference between biotic and abiotic factors. In science, when we say bio simply means life. Bio means living things, and that includes plants and animals. All right, so living things in the environment, they include the plants and animals. The living things in the environment, they are the biotic factors. On the other hand, when we talk about abiotic factors means the non-living things in the environment. And the non-living things in the environment, they include sunlight, temperature, air or carbon dioxide, water or rainfall, the wind, the soil, the relative acidity. All these factors are the abiotic factors of the environment. Okay? These are the abiotic factors of the environment. So here we are looking at ecosystem. When we talk about ecosystem, we are talking about all the organic, abiotic and biotic factors interacting. Okay, ecosystem is all the organisms that live in a place interacting together with their physical environment. So here we see savanna grassland ecosystem. In this ecosystem, we see organisms such as zebras. We also see carnivores. We also see decomposers such as bacteria. All these organisms, they interact with one another and also their physical environment. So when organisms, which are the biotic factors, which are the biotic part of the ecosystem, when they interact with the abiotic factors and also their themselves, how they interact together, we call it ecosystem. So ecosystem simply means biotic plus abiotic, and also the interaction between the organisms and their physical environment. Okay, so let me ask this. In the Bronze Zoo, for example, we have elephants in the Bronze Zoo. So in the Bronze Zoo, organisms such as elephant, they live over there, they interact with their physical environment. Okay, so these organisms, their ecosystem will be the Bronze Zoo. That's where they live, that's where they interact with their physical environment. Okay, so these organisms, at the zoo, their ecosystem now is the Bronze Zoo. When we also look at microorganisms in sewage treatment facility, the wastewater facility serves as the ecosystem because that's where they live, that's where they interact with their physical environment and also other biotic conditions. Okay, so here we are looking at ecological levels of organization. The first one that we should look at is species. When we talk about species, species are closely related organisms that can mate and produce fertile offspring. So organisms that belong to the same species, they can compete for the same mate. If they don't belong in the same species, that means they are not going to compete for the same mate. Population is made up of organisms of a species that live in an area at the same time. Population is simply the number of organisms that live in an area, the total number of organisms of a species that live in an area. When you talk about community, so population is the same organisms, okay, that live in an area. Community is different populations of organisms that live in an area. Then we move on to the next higher level of ecological organization is the ecosystem. When we talk about ecosystem simply means community, which comprises of different populations in an area plus their physical environment, how they interact with their physical environment. So community simply means the organism, different population. Ecosystem is all the community plus their physical environment. When you have different ecosystems which are similar in terms of climate and weather patterns, they form biome. And the part of the earth that life can exist, we call it the biosphere. Okay? And habitat simply means a place where an organism can live successfully. Now let's look at symbiotic relationship between organisms. Organisms, they form close relationship with one another. And remember, species, they are closely related organisms that can mate and produce fertile offspring. Symbiosis is any close relationship between organisms, between species. Organisms, they form close relationship with one another. And mutualism is a symbiotic relationship in which both organisms or both species benefit. So here we are looking at an example of mutualistic relationship. And this relationship is between fungus and algae. The algae is a green, is photosynthetic, is autotroph. So that means the algae is able to produce a food. And the fungi hyphae, the fungi is producing the shelter, a suitable environment for the algae to survive and make the food. So the algae makes the food, the fungi provide a suitable environment for the algae, and also the fungi also receive the food, some of the food made by the algae. So in this relationship called mutualism, all or both organisms, they benefit. The next type of relationship between organisms is called predatory. Predatory is simply when a carnivore kills, other animal for food. So here we see lion killing and eating the zebra for food. In all ecosystems, organisms, they interact. Okay, and this type of interaction, it causes the lives of the zebra. Okay. So when you remove, for example, all the predator populations in this environment, what will happen is that it will decrease the ecosystem diversity. It will decrease the ecosystem diversity. If you remove all the predator populations from an ecosystem, that will result in a decrease in ecosystem diversity. Remember, diversity simply means different variety of species, different variety. So ecosystem diversity will be reduced when you take, population of herbivores, for example, or population of carnivores or predators, in an area. That would decrease the ecosystem diversity. The next relationship we are looking at is commensalism. When we talk about commensalism, it's a symbiotic relationship in which one organism benefits and the other is not harmed. So this relationship between the sea animal and also the clownfish, in this relationship, the sea animal's tentacle protect the clownfish from predators. So the clownfish is able to hide inside the tentacle of the sea animal. The sea animal doesn't get any benefits, but the clownfish is able to avoid predators. Okay? The next type of mutualistic relationship is parasitism. Parasitism is when one organism called a parasite, which is most of the time smaller organisms, lives or inside or on the host. The host is the organism that the parasite, lives on. And the parasite causes harm to the host most of the time. So the parasite is deriving nourishment from its host. Okay? So it's a symbiotic relationship in which one organism benefits, but the other is harmed. So one is benefiting, the parasite is benefiting, is deriving food or nourishment. The dog here, which is the host, is being harmed. Okay, so this is a tick feeding on a dog. So now we are looking at levels, or we are looking at producers organism. When we talk about producers, we are talking about organisms that produce their own food. So organisms that produce their own food, they can produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. Examples of producers, they include plants, algae, and some bacteria, cyanobacteria. So autotroph producers, they are autotrophs. Auto means by itself. Okay, auto means by itself. The Greek word trophikos means to feed. So autotroph simply means self-feeder. Plants are producers. That means they make their own food. So autotrophs is equal to producers, is equal to plants, is equal to make their own food. These organisms, they make their own food. They are producers. The next is consumers. When we talk about consumers, they are organisms that eat or take in other organisms as their food source. Consumers do not have chloroplasts. Consumer is equal to heterotrophs. That means they are not autotrophs, they are heterotrophs. They cannot make their own food. That's why they are called heterotrophs. We have different types of consumers. We have herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, decomposers, scavengers, detritivores. Let's take a closer look at herbivores, which are consumers. So when we talk about herbivores, we are talking about organisms that feed on plants, leaves, roots, seed, or fruits. Examples of herbivores, they include cow, giraffe, caterpillar, and deer. These organisms, they feed on only herbs or plant products. So herbivores are consumers, they are heterotrophs, they don't have any chloroplasts. The next is carnivores. Carnivores are organisms, they kill and eat other organisms. Example, lion, hog, crocodile. Carnivores, they are consumers, they are heterotrophs, they have no chloroplasts. The next is omnivores. Omnivores are organisms that eat both plants and animals. So if you look at this example, we see an organism eating both plants and animals. Example, humans. We are omnivores. We eat both plant and animal products. So omnivores are consumers. They are heterotrophs. They have no chloroplasts. The next, which is very important, is decomposers. Decomposers are organisms that break down dead plants and animals and they recycle nutrients into the soil. Examples of decomposers, bacteria, worms, fungi, or mushroom. So the function of decomposers is they return nutrients to the soil. They remove dead plants and animals. Okay? So decomposers, they break down dead plants and animals and return nutrients into the soil. Decomposers, they are consumers. They are heterotrophs. They have no chloroplasts. Decomposers, they feed on both producers and other consumers. Scavengers are organisms that eat only dead animals. Example, vultures. They eat only dead animals. Vultures, flies, and raccoons. They consume only dead animals. So scavengers, they are consumers. They are heterotrophs. They have no chloroplasts. The only organism with chloroplasts are producers. Okay? The next example is detritivores. That's the last example. Detritivores, they are organisms that consume decomposing plants as well as fecal matter. So we see examples of decomposers here. Millipedes, dung beetle, earthworm. These are detritivores. That means they feed on decomposing plants and other parts, okay? And also fecal matter. So detritivores commonly play the role of decomposers by getting rid of decaying organic matter, okay? So detritivores, they are consumers, they are heterotrophs. That means they have no chloroplasts. They have no chloroplasts, okay? They have no chloroplasts. The most important point is to know that decomposers, they are organisms, they break down dead plants and animal products. Decomposers, they break down dead plants and animal products. They recycle